Great weekend. Now, the 424-page Moerane report has been released by Willies Mchunu, the KZN Premier. The commission was established in 2016 to probe the underlying causes of the murder and attempted murder of politicians in KwaZulu-Natal. Some of the evidence given allege that the police are not clean and that they are actively involved in some cases at the notorious Gleblands hostel, and that the public's perception is that financial enrichment is the main driving factor contributing to the killings. People fight tooth and nail to secure and remain in positions. To talk about the Moerane Commission's findings and recommendations, we joined from our Durban studios by Premier Willies Mchunu. Premier, thank you for your time. Thanks so much for joining us.
Morning, Leanne, and morning to the viewers as well.
So, Premier, you presented the report to the KZN legislature yesterday. How was it received by the members of the legislature?
Well, starting from presenting it to the portfolio committees, the Joint Premier Portfolio Committee and the Portfolio Committee on Community Safety and Liaison, they all overwhelmingly supported the work of the Commission, especially the findings and the recommendations. Yesterday, as we presented it, we also expected a similar outcome. And indeed, we joyfully witnessed all political parties overwhelmingly, yet again, really thanking the Moerane Commission for the job well done. And that is a very positive stance by the political parties of KwaZulu-Natal. It remains to be seen whether they will be able to now implement the recommendations, because the recommendations actually put the parties at the center of grappling with internal conflicts within each of the parties. Government, yes, has tried its best in the province to deal with interpolitical parties. That is when political parties fight amongst themselves, amongst each other. But when the political fighting is internal to each of the political parties, the Commission says it must be the duty of that political party to have its own internal mechanisms, including mediation, but also just monitoring whether there are tensions and how to diffuse those tensions.
Yeah.
Now we have pleaded with all of the political parties to heed the call of the Moerane Commission, that let's all work for unity, work from a strong base of political maturity, which includes political tolerance within the province, but also across the country. The Commission has recommended that the report be given to the President, because what is seen in KwaZulu-Natal is not only a reflection of a provincial phenomenon, but it is widespread right through the country.
Indeed. Let's just go deeper into it, because what some of the evidence given basically showed that the police are not clean and that they're actively involved in some of the cases at the notorious Gleblands hostel, and that the public's perception is that financial enrichment is the main driving factor. Are you happy with the work that is being done by the task team to investigate these cases and the findings that have come out of it?
Well, so far, we are happy with the intervention of the ministers, especially the task team, the latest task team that Minister of Police, Minister Kele, has put in place. They are working their selves to death, and they seem to be discovering some leads in almost many long outstanding cases, and for us, that's a positive. So, yes, the work of the police is to be commended at this stage, but the Commission itself has indeed, as you correctly say, found that there are weaknesses. The politicization of the police has been condemned by the Commission, and they say it must be attended to. And indeed, all of us as politicians must refrain from party politicizing the police. They themselves, members of the police, must refrain from that. And everybody must just understand that the police service is there to serve all of us regardless of political affiliation. That must be the culture, and it must be promoted in this province, but also in the country as a whole.
Premier, some of the recommendations also say that political parties must take responsibility for the violent competition between their members for political positions and power, and the state must ensure that institutions of the entire criminal justice system are immediately depoliticized. Will you be implementing all of the recommendations of the Moerane Commission?
Well, I have indicated, Leanne, that provincially we do have a justice, crime prevention and security cluster, and we are now referring this report to them, and we are saying they must come up with recommendations of what needs to be done. But we will also be asking the Justice, Crime Prevention and Security Cluster at national level to also delve into this matter, because it's a matter that all of us need to apply our minds to.
Yeah, which is quite, it's very, very important, because the investigation of corrupt activities and the criminal acts by politicians, public officials, business people, it's also said that these must be vigorously investigated, and those whom there is evidence of corruption must be prosecuted, and if found guilty must be sentenced to rebuild the confidence of the public in the public service. So we are hoping, and one can imagine, that there will be arrests and people held accountable for what has happened during the course of this time and the findings of the investigations.
Well, certainly you will realize that even before the report itself has made those findings and suggestions, the President had already started the process of allocating a task team to this province, which is to us an indication that at the top leadership of the country, the issue of depoliticization of the public service, but also particularly the criminal justice structures, it has taken root. It started already. But it must be intensified, and as we have indicated, the report as well has been forwarded to the office of the President, and right now I'm happy to say that almost all of the structures of the police, especially at managerial level, will get a copy of the report. We will be asking them to apply their mind on what needs to be done, but we will also be monitoring on an ongoing basis. We are not going to be spectators, and I've said so, I repeat, we are not going to be spectators, and we are not going to be saying, because this is allocated to a particular department, therefore as government, we are now going to sit around and wait for that department to be attending to it. Okay. We'll be holding everyone to account, and we'll be making sure that the work of the Commission is not in vain.
Well, Premier, we leave it there. It's around the corner where the 2019 elections are, and that political violence in the province is something that we're hoping will be curbed, but I can imagine there's a lot of work that needs to be done before that. Thank you for talking to us and for your valuable time. That's the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal talking to us about the Moerane Commission report that was handed down to the KwaZulu-Natal legislature yesterday, and Willies Mchunu talking to us about that. Let us take a break.